It's 5 a.m., you are absolutely exhausted, and your baby is raring to go. While the days of a long lie-in might be gone for a while, there are things that you can do to help your baby wake at what is an acceptable time in the morning. In order to manage our baby's sleep, we need to know how much age-appropriate sleep they require. This means we can then adjust their daytime sleep and their nighttime sleep accordingly, and this in itself will help with early morning wakings. Newborns need between 14 and 17 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period, and older infants between 12 and 15 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period. So when you've got those sums to work with, then it makes it easier to manage your little one's sleep. So on our website, we have an extensive list of sleep schedules by month so that you can check out what your baby should be doing and how many hours of sleep they need at any given age. It's a really helpful tool, and once you've got that figure in your head, then it's easier for you to juggle around daytime sleep and nighttime sleep accordingly. There is no ideal time for waking up in the morning. It's what suits the family. So if you are people that go to bed late, then you might want to shift the baby's schedule so they're going to bed later and waking up later. If you're people that like to get up early in the morning, then you will shift the baby's schedule accordingly to fit in. My rule of thumb is that anything before 6 o'clock is considered too early to wake. If you don't want your baby to need you the minute they wake up, then you need to teach them how to self-soothe. Because if they cannot fall asleep independently, whenever they wake up, they're going to want you. And in the early days, when you've got your newborn and you want them to cuddle and let them fall asleep on you, and that's brilliant for the first few weeks for the bonding, I could not agree more at how important that is. However, if you don't want them to need you every time they wake up, at some point you're going to have to help them to self-soothe. So I have a few early self-soothing tips, and they're not sleep training. And I often say that if you establish these in the early days, you may find that you don't need conventional sleep training, but they are gentle ways to get your baby to learn how to be independent from you and to be perfectly happy just lying in their crib. So that the minute they open their eyes, they don't immediately start screaming and wanting you. My first tip, and this would really help with early morning waking, is to put your baby in their crib while they're awake during the day when there's no pressure for sleep. It could be while you need to pop to the shower or just go put some washing in the washing machine. Lie your baby on their back in their crib with a mobile overhead and leave them be. You can leave them be until they start to fuss, or you just leave them be for a few minutes, 5 minutes, and then you go pick them up. See, there's no pressure for them to fall asleep, no pressure for them to be there without you. They're just being engaged in the moment and they're happily playing in their crib. This is meant to teach them that when they open their eyes and they find themselves in this very familiar, happy place, that they're going to be more than happy just to lie there and look around. And you can imagine how that helps with early morning wakings, because if they wake up and they're just looking around them and they're quite happy to be relaxed in their crib and you can hear them gurgling away, by all means, just leave them to it. You don't need to go to them at all until they make it known that they're ready for you to do so. Another early way to help your child learn to self-soothe is by not rushing in every time they make a sound. When we've got a new baby, of course, every time they make a noise, we're anxious, we go to check on them, we pick them up. Are they okay? Do they need their diaper changed? If we can take a breath and just start to relax a bit and understand that we also make noises, we wake up, we fall asleep, give your baby the same consideration. So don't let them get into the habit straight away that as soon as they move and as soon as they start to squirm or shuffle or make a noise, that you immediately go and pick them up. Just wait and see if they resettle. Even if they don't resettle, you're not conditioning them to the fact that as soon as they start to stir, you're there straight away. So you might come a little while after, but you're just certainly not there immediately. It's a gentle way for them to get used to not being picked up every time they make a noise. Another way to condition your baby to be ready for sleep is to have a bedtime and nap time routine. This is what's called a conditioned response, when you actually get your child used to certain things that you do every time preceding a bedtime. And if you do that, they get conditioned for sleep. Now, you may be wondering why I'm talking about that when we're talking about early morning wakings. It's because the more successful you're putting them down for a nap is, or putting them to bed is, the more likely they are to sleep well and to sleep longer. Nap routines and bedtime routines get your baby in the right mindset to sleep. If it's chaotic before they go to sleep, they're more likely to wake up early. So that's why I'm talking about this preamble to sleep, even though we're trying to fix the end to sleep, i.e. the early mornings wakings. I would try a pacifier and I would try swaddling. Swaddling makes your baby feel secure. They're more likely to stay asleep for longer, especially when they're newborns. But remember that if your baby starts to show signs of rolling, then it's time to transition out of a swaddle. But in the early days, getting your baby to sleep a bit longer in the mornings can also help if they are swaddled. It stops the startle reflex, so they're not waking themselves up. And just because they're feeling more cozy and safe, they are more likely to sleep a bit longer. And as I said, a pacifier can also help. Although when they're really young, you'll have to put the pacifier back in again. If it gets you that extra bit of sleep, then you'll be grateful for it, that's for sure. And as your baby gets older, they can put the pacifier in for themselves. And finally, it's that age-old one that you've all heard of, put your baby down while they're drowsy and not fast asleep. Because if a baby wakes up after having fallen asleep on you, when they wake up and you're not there, they haven't had that natural transition from you. So therefore they're going, oh, where are you? Where are you? Because the last time I closed my eyes, you were there. So it's very important that you put them down, drowsy but not fast asleep. Again, this will definitely have a positive impact on their waking and their ability to self-soothe. And their waking and their ability to self-soothe without you is going to help them to sleep longer in the mornings, or at least not require you to get up and deal with them so quickly. So if your baby does wake up early in the morning, don't be afraid of trying to resettle them. If you've tried leaving them and they've not resettled themselves, if it's 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5:30 even, I would try and resettle. I wouldn't accept the fact that I have to get up and deal with baby. Only feed them if you know they need a feed. Don't think that you should feed them early and hope they will go back to sleep again. Depending on the age, of course. A newborn, would be normal. You would feed them, let them go back to sleep. But for 6 months onwards, they're not going to be needing a feed at that time of day. And actually at 4 months, probably not, depending on when they've had their last feed. So don't assume that you have to feed them when they wake up early in the morning. Because if they think every time they wake up in the morning that you're going to feed them, that's going to make them less likely to settle. If we're talking about early morning wakings, we have to take into consideration what else is going on in your baby's sleep routine. So if your baby is sleeping for too long during the day, what do? You quite simply, you wake them up. I would recommend that babies don't sleep for longer than 3 hours during the day. 2 to 3 hours for their naps is ideal. So wake them and make sure that they are ready for bedtime when it comes around. By the same token, if they're getting too little sleep during the day, then they are going to be overtired when bedtime comes around, and that will impact on the quality of their nighttime sleep and will often result in them waking up too early the next day. So it's really important that you get the nap schedule correct. If your baby is not sleeping enough during the day, insert a quick cat nap later in the afternoon, but I would restrict that to 30 minutes. You'd be surprised though how that can give your baby a boost, get them through to bedtime in good humour and ready to go to sleep, and then will have a positive impact on them not waking up too early the next day. Another common reason why babies wake early in the morning is due to the amount of light and maybe noise, because it would be from passing traffic and the world just waking up outside. Therefore, 2 simple things that you can do to help with this are to install blackout blinds, and I'm a great fan of a white noise machine. Not only does that cut out the ambient noise in the house during the evening and at night, but it will definitely help with that early morning noise that might disturb your baby as they're coming out of their deep sleep. And finally, this might seem obvious, but you should always avoid your baby becoming overtired. Now, this is going to require some flexibility. If you've had a particularly busy day, don't be scared to put your baby to bed early. Chances are, if they're overtired, you will need to put them to bed earlier rather than later. And if you do hold off bedtime because you think they're going to wake up early the next morning, they're going to wake up early the next morning anyway. Because as I've already mentioned, an overtired baby does not sleep well. So don't be afraid of bringing bedtime forward if you've had a particularly busy day or they've missed a nap or for any other reason. And one more tip that I'd like to throw your way is the fact that you should get outside every day. If you want to improve your baby's sleep overall, and that includes the early morning wakings, then get outside. Natural light balances melatonin production and your baby's natural circadian rhythm. Being exposed to natural light and the fresh air is so important. So from early on, go out for a walk, put them in the stroller, get out in the garden if it's the right time of year. Just getting out in that fresh air and that natural light can have a hugely positive impact on your baby's sleep, including helping them to sleep longer the next day. So as you can see, there are lots of easy things that you can do to adjust your baby's sleep in order to help them sleep for longer in the morning. And I hope some of them work for you, because I know how desperate it is when you feel like you need that extra bit of sleep in the morning. And don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, because I always like to hear your thoughts on any of the things that I've been talking about, or anything you might like me to talk about in the future. Thank you.